By the time I got home, my heart palpitations had calmed down a bit. It had been a busy evening full of tension and experiences I hadn't planned to face. This night was a shock to my system, something I never expected. But then again, I suppose men like me are everywhere. Being a current police officer, though, I was better prepared for it than most. I grabbed a beer, a speckled hen, sat down in my favorite chair and waited. I was waiting for my sweet, loving wife to come home after a night out with the girls. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Just as I was beginning to wonder if their night was over, I heard the sound of a key in the door. This was it. It could have ended in many different ways. By tomorrow, our marriage could have been ruined. But now, it was up to her. "Oh, Jerry," Jenny said in surprise as she entered the room. "What are you still doing up?" It was already 2 in the morning. So her question wasn't unreasonable. For the past few months, I had long since been asleep by the time she came home from her weekly outings with her friends. So the question wasn't unexpected. I stared at her, amazed at how beautiful she still was, almost 32, 3 years younger than me. Slim, long-legged, full-breasted, with such a sweet, pretty face. No wonder the guys at that damn club were lining up to get her in their arms on the dance floor. No wonder they were so eager to explore her firm figure and every other part of her they could reach with their hands. "Did you have a good night, honey?" I asked calmly. "Not bad, Jerry," she replied casually. "Nothing special, you know. Good fun, but nothing out of the ordinary. So what I had observed earlier wasn't anything unusual, was it?" "Does that mean," she continued, "it was just like every week when I go out with Sue and Jude?" Jenny was about to take off her jacket, but then hesitated. At any other time, I would hardly have noticed, but knowing how revealing her top was, especially since she had taken off her bra earlier, I could understand why Jenny hesitated. I wondered how many more times she'd come home like that while I was asleep in bed, completely unaware. "Ready for bed, honey?" she asked with a smile. "At least I won't have to wake you up tonight to get what I need." At least that was true. I couldn't complain about being woken up when she came home from her nightly walks. If I wasn't asleep too soundly, she'd wake me up, and if I was, we'd catch up in the morning. "Wait, Jenny." I stopped her before she could head to bed. "Before we go to bed, I want to tell you a little story." "Let's leave it until morning, honey," Jenny begged. "I'm really tired, and I need to take a shower before bed." "No, Jenny," I told her firmly. She looked at me intently for the first time, and the smile on her face faded. "Take off your coat and sit down." Jenny hesitated for a moment, but then sat down. "It's okay," she said, her voice still calm. "Take off your coat," I insisted, my voice hardening. "When I ask you—" She jumped to her feet in shock, hesitated, and then carefully removed her coat, making sure her arms were folded across her chest. She was trying, only partially successfully, to hide how freely her loose breasts swayed beneath the tight dress. I knew she had lost her bra during the night out. I knew how and where she had lost it. I even knew where it was now, in my jacket pocket along with her panties, though I wasn't going to let her know that just yet. I told her how my partner, Tom, and I had been driving in a patrol car when we spotted what looked like her Volkswagen Golf parked outside the Blue Gown Club, a well-known but dubious club in our seaside town in the south of England. I asked her if that was her car or if I was mistaken, since she had told me earlier she was going to a restaurant for dinner that evening. How much did I really know? Exactly how much had I figured out? She had no idea, and I saw her frown as she furrowed her eyebrows. "The Blue Dress Club?" she asked, squinting her eyes as if trying to remember, as if the name sounded familiar. "Yes, that's right. Think carefully before you answer me, Jenny. Our marriage may depend on it." The color drained from Jenny's face, and she clutched the desk in front of her. Her large breasts rippled freely under her dress as she forgot about trying to hide the obvious. Her bra was gone. Yes, that's it, Jerry," she gasped. "It's a club, but with a restaurant. We went there to eat and dance." I raised an eyebrow. "Dance, Jerry." "What do you mean, dance?" There's nothing wrong with dancing, Jenny, is there? I teased. She stared at me silently, her eyes searching my face, trying to guess how much I already knew. In all our 9 years of marriage, I'd never known her to lie to my face. She was on shaky ground, and she knew it. Did you go to the club? I asked, my voice calm. Jenny's nervousness was obvious. That's for me to know and you to guess, love. I teased again. So you were dancing? I asked, my voice still playful, but with a hint of something more serious behind it. Jenny hesitated, wrestling with her conscience, trying desperately to figure out how much I knew. Yes, we danced, she finally admitted. All 3 of us danced a little. I didn't respond right away, just sat there staring at her with a steady, unwavering gaze. Okay, we danced quite a bit then. All 3 of us danced most of the evening, she confessed, her voice small, but I could tell she was slowly crumbling under the pressure. And who did you dance with, Jenny? I asked. With anyone in particular? She bit her lip, unsure of how much to reveal. Just a few different guys, she said, her tone defensive. 3 girls like us get hit on a lot. That was true, I thought, and I made sure of it. Jenny and her 2 girlfriends made quite the stunning trio in their high heels and flimsy little mini dresses with bare legs, tousled hair, cheeky smiles, and revealing cleavage. No one special? I pressed. You didn't dance with anyone more than the others? Jenny's eyes flashed, and she half stood up before sinking back down into her chair, realizing she was trapped. Stop teasing me, you bastard, she exploded. How long were you there? I asked calmly. What did you see? She hesitated. Now that would be telling, wouldn't it, my love? I teased, my voice still quiet. I let her finish her outburst before continuing. Tell me everything you did tonight, I said, my tone serious. Lie to me just once, and our marriage is over. Tell me the truth, and I just might forgive you. The fact that she didn't argue at least told me that she knew she was in serious trouble. Please, Jerry, I love you, she pleaded. Please believe me. I didn't mean anything tonight. I was just fooling around, flirted a little, but nothing more than that. Then tell me everything, I insisted, my voice firm but not unkind. Despite the tight feeling in my gut, this time Jenny swallowed hard and with a grim expression began to tell me what had happened. For the time being, thoughts of showering or going to bed were put aside. We got there, had a few drinks, and soon guys started coming up to us, flirting and asking us to dance. We flirted back a bit, but nothing serious, just teasing them like usual. I danced with a few of them, one guy. She trailed off, but I could see she was desperately trying to choose her words carefully. I danced with him a little more than the others, she continued, her voice softer, but only because he was a good dancer. I knew that was a half-truth. Yes, he could dance, but that wasn't the only reason she'd spent most of the evening with him. From the start, they looked more like a couple in love than 2 people who had just met. His hands had been all over her as they danced. Well, that's it, Jerry. We did a lot of dancing with him, but he left around midnight, and the girls and I left much later, Jenny said, trying to sound casual. It was true, but it didn't tell the whole story. So you didn't go out with this guy? I asked, keeping my voice even. Didn't go out? Why would I go out with him? She replied quickly, stalling. But I still loved her, so I decided to give her some space, another chance to come clean. Black BMW by the seawall, Jenny. How about it? Her face crinkled and the remnants of color drained from her cheeks. She muttered the words, "Oh God," under her breath. In some strange way, I was enjoying her discomfort. "Oh, Jerry, it's no big deal," she said, her voice shaky. "I didn't do anything, I promise you. At least we didn't, you know." Before she could finish, Jenny burst into tears and put her head in her hands. "How long have you been dating this Norman Jones guy?" I asked, my voice flat. "Oh my God, you even know his name," she mumbled, dropping her hands. "I'm so sorry, Jerry." What a damn fool I've been. I nodded in agreement, though she didn't notice. She was so upset. At my job, I could find everything I needed to know about him. I could find out his inner leg length if I wanted to, but I didn't need to. She was here, right in front of me. Leaving her to wallow in her misery for a few more minutes, I decided to move on. There was still much to be decided. Taking her bra out of my jacket pocket, I tossed it to her, asking, "Did you lose this somewhere?" There was no response. Then I took her panties out of another pocket, rolled them into a ball, and tossed them in her direction as well. She could hardly miss them. Now she moaned pitifully, shaking her head from side to side in a dazed state. It took her 3 attempts to speak coherently. Finally, through her tears, she begged me to tell her what I had seen. "Everything," I said, my voice hard. "Everything, damn it. From the time you let him touch your breast on the dance floor to the time you let him take your panties off." "Oh, Jerry, I'm so sorry," she cried. "I wish I'd never met him. But I didn't let him. I swear I didn't let him do that." I let her cry for a bit, ignoring the barely coherent declarations of love for me and the assertion that it didn't mean anything, that she didn't let him go all the way. "I know, Jenny," I said quietly, my voice almost a whisper. "I watched you both, and if you'd let him possess you, we wouldn't be sitting here right now talking about it." This set her off again. She swore desperately that she would never act behind my back again, begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance. Stupid bloody cow, I thought to myself, though I wasn't sure if I'd say it out loud. In the end, I was going to give her another chance. I knew for a fact he wasn't the first to grope her breasts. It had happened at parties when I was there. We'd all had too much to drink, and frankly, I'd done about the same thing myself. But I wasn't done testing her yet. I wanted to see how much she truly valued our marriage, and to make sure Norman didn't mean that much to her. I reached into my pants pocket and pulled out a small key, tossing it onto the table in front of her. Jenny reached forward and picked it up. "What is it?" she asked, her voice shaking through her tears. "Don't you recognize it, Jenny?" She looked at the key carefully. Her eyes widened as recognition hit her. "Oh, yes," she said softly, her voice barely audible. "It's the key to your handcuffs, isn't it?" I told her she was more or less right about the handcuffs, but they were outdated ones, bought online and couldn't be traced. Jenny wiped her eyes with her handkerchief, sniffling a few times. She looked at me with a puzzled expression, clearly waiting for some explanation. "When you left the club to go to his car, Jenny, he went first, and you followed a few moments afterward, right?" I asked. She nodded, not meeting my gaze, explaining that she didn't want anyone to see them leave together or suspect what was going on. "And when did you get out of his car?" "I went back to the club first," she explained, as though I hadn't already guessed it. "Norman followed you 5 minutes later." I asked again. She looked up at me fearfully, gasping and pressing her hand to her mouth. "He didn't come back, Jerry. We waited for half an hour, but he never came back. We even went to check his car. It was still parked there, but there was no sign of him." I smirked, though it wasn't a pleasant smirk. It wasn't meant to make her feel better. I waited for her to realize what I was implying. "Oh my God, Jerry!" Jenny shrieked, the realization hitting her. "What have you done? For heaven's sake, what have you done to Norman?" "After you left, Tom and I dragged my lover out of the car and handcuffed him," I said coldly. "He objected a little, but he thought he was being arrested for lewd behavior or something. Then we took him to the beach behind the seawall and handcuffed him to the post of the old pier. Only after Tom duct-taped his mouth shut did we explain who we really were." Jenny's eyes went wide. "What does Tom have to do with all this?" "Tom was the one who alerted me to what was going on. He discovered that his wife, June, had been having a full-blown affair with your friend Norman for the past 6 months. They'd been having sex while Tom was on duty. When he found out, he followed Norman to check it out, and that's when he discovered Norman had started hitting on you. If I had reason to hate your friend Norman, Tom had even more reason to hate him." "Oh, God, you—" Jenny started to speak, but I cut her off. It was that cow June who first introduced us, but I had no idea she was involved with him. What are you going to do, Jerry? Leave him there all night? It's not that easy, honey, I said, resorting to one last test. We've chained him up. The water will be 3 feet above his head when the tide comes in. Jenny stared at me in amazement, letting out a slight squeal. But you can't let him drown, Jerry. You can't. It would be murder. The way I see it, Jenny, I replied calmly, he only has one chance. I glanced at my watch to check the time. By now, the water should be splashing at his feet. Another 40 minutes, and it would be over. It was a 20-minute drive to the beach. Jenny was too shocked to say anything, too stunned to move. If he means that much to you, I continued, you better hurry up and save him. But if you do, it'll be the end of our marriage. Either way, I'll be out or in jail. If you decide not to do it, then go to bed with me, and I'll forgive you. We'll try to get on with our lives as if nothing happened. Jenny, poor cow, sat there shaking, staring at the key in her hand. Not that she didn't deserve it. Only 10 minutes left, Jenny. I informed her after a while. I would soon find out how much Jenny really loved me. If it wasn't so sad, I might have found some amusement in watching her sit there with dry eyes, but she was trembling uncontrollably. She felt so guilty. She never once wondered if I was telling the truth. Well, hell, I thought to myself, Tom, and I dragged him out of the car, damn near gave him a beating he'd never forget. If he ever sees one of our wives come into the club again, he's going to throw her out the back door. Not that he has been able to attend any clubs for months. He'll probably never dance again, like he used to. I paused and looked at Jenny, still shaking. He squealed like a piglet when we suspended him upside down over the seawall. I continued. Despite what I said earlier, the tide was just about to come in. Jenny looked up at me with a brave attempt at a smile. Let's go to bed, Jay, she muttered nervously. That's right, I said. The ball was back in my court, and now it was my turn to make a decision. Had she suffered enough? I wasn't quite sure.